Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Dork Side of the Ring. I am your host, the purveyor of all things dorky with inside of the scope of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. I am Grumm. Hi. I hope you guys are doing good. I hope you guys are doing great and wonderful. It is a nice holiday weekend here as I'm recording this. The day, what is it? Would it be Boxing Day? Boxing Day, on for the Patreon access, and technically this will be the first episode of the new year on the main feed. So happy 2022. Over under 3.5 months of saying 2021. Normally it's only like 2 months, but I feel like last year this past year, I guess, I kept saying 2020 for like, I don't know, probably like 4 months. I think it was like May or I was like, hey, 2021, all right. Yeah, that's right, we're in 2021, and stop saying 2022. But happy 2022, 2022. Good time. This is going to be a good year. It's going to be the year of the Dork Side. Last year was the year of launching the Dork Side. This year is the year of the Dork Side. So it'll be good year ahead of us. We're kicking it off with a fun episode this week from the close personal friends Rolodex of my pals, and from their own podcast, The Vault, with Jacky Van and Connor. We have Jacky Van and Connor Lane from their respective from their podcast, The Vault, from the CPFs. It's good to have them. We're talking Glacier today, so if you don't know what Glacier is, just a quick, I'll give you a little. I think I'm going to do this a little bit, right, so that you can listen to, you have an idea of what you're going to get ahead of yourself. Glacier is WCW's attempt to cash in on the Mortal Kombat craze. Years too late. So that's a good enough of a teaser to have you continue to listen past these first couple of minutes. Continue doing so. It's awesome. We talk about Disneyland, the video game. Rest in piss, Urban Meyer. I think when we recorded this, he was about to get fired. He was not yet tired, but fired. I'm tired. That's why I said tired. I just woke up from a nap. And, yeah, I've been doing a lot of that. As you can tell by my yawning, that's an experienced, tired, sleepy man. My Christmas was pretty good. I got the Dork Side related stuff. Not so much, but I did get something wrestling related. I got the Andre the Giant biography, the Eighth Wonder of the World. Eventually I'm going to get to that. I'm also still reading The Squared Circle by David Shoemaker. It's a good read if you have not already. I also have like Jalen Rose's autobiography that I need to read, that I want to read, I should say. I don't have to read it, but I want to read it. I have it. What else? Oh, I have no longer, or I'm starting, the Patreon is in full effect. Thank you if you were, been a patron the first couple months of the Patreon without getting the full benefits of it. I did what I could, like the stuff. But January is the first month of the Patreon being in full effect. The benefits getting full kick in, YouTube videos, special streams, the whole kit and caboodle. That's over there at support.grumm.tv. And if you wish to join the Discord, just go to grumm.tv. Yeah, that's right. No longer is it join.grumm.tv. No, it is just regularly grumm.tv, because that's where I stream, grumm.tv. It's my Discord. I think the other thing that I need to tell you, avid listener, about the goings on. This is the third to last episode, or like recording that I did prior to December. So I'm gonna have some newer episodes, and we will have some fresher references to bring up. But that's the fun part, right? So this one, next week's episode, we'll talk about at the end of the episode, and the following week, were all recorded before December. So a lot like I think I did 8 episodes before the end of December, so I was like I got to get like ahead. So but now I can take a minute to this next week. I'm like, this week between Christmas and New Year's for me as I'm recording this is a relaxing one in terms of making and editing content. So I have about 2 weeks to get back in the swing of things, and I will. Oh, baby, will I! So that is the plan here. Thank you guys for listening again, for making 2021 a fun. I almost said 2020. 2021 a great year. 2022 is going to be a fun year. We've got topics planned for holidays coming up. That'll be a lot of fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I have my birthday at the end of January. It doesn't fall on an actual podcasting day, so that'll be good, but I will be Merry Christmas to me. Me and my lovely girlfriend will be going to Cape Canaveral at the end of the month, which is kind of fun because I've always wanted to go to Kennedy Space Center, and I like space. Space is always a fun little thing to think about, and I can't wait to go. So that's that. That's what I got for Christmas. Let me know what you got for Christmas. Go to Twitter at DorksideRing or at I am Grumm, or go to Instagram and do so. Happy 2022. Without further ado, let's get into this. Myself, Jacky Van, Connor Lane, Jacky Van, and myself talking about Glacier from WCW. Right here on the Dork Side of the Ring podcast.
Are you proud of me for knowing what a title belt was? I mean...
of all the things that people have gotten, have been like, hey, like, I know what this thing is. You're the first to say a title belt. Everybody else is like, I know this wrestler, and I'm like, who? And they're like, John Cena, and I'm like, okay. And then like some people are like, I'm like, what about Hulk Hogan? They're like, oh, I know that's a wrestler too. I'm like, yeah, it's like the biggest wrestler, Stone Cold. They're like, wow, I know a lot of wrestlers. Actually,
yeah. I'm not going to get those very right, but boy, do I know what a title belt is.
I know what a title belt is. I know what a steel chair is. I don't know why it's relative to wrestling, but I know what a steel chair is. No, I did this, and I'm gonna do it the next time I have where both people know nothing about, like, absolutely nothing about wrestling, and it's basically like I'm going to say a name of a wrestler, and you need to tell me if you know who they are or not, and like because it was very interesting. The results of it was like, hey, like this person, like no, or one of them was I was like, oh, Owen Hart, and they're like, I know Owen Hart because of like the name is familiar because of my friend, and I'm like. Oh, God, because Owen Hart fell to his death, and my thought was, like, holy shit. Like what? And they're like, because his name was Owen, and I'm like, oh, thank God. Like, they had a pause that just shouldn't have been there. And I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, they gave me a moment to be like, huh?
Yeah, well, you could do that very safely and have a good bit with me, because I know nobody except
we'll get it.
Only when I know people, and we'll get into it. But like my roommates in college were big into wrestling.
All right.
And so the number of times I watched very clueless.
We'll get into it right now. We're here on the Dork Side with users Jacky Van 99 and Comrade Connor Lane. That is Connor with 2 R's. I will respect the spelling. Oh, and O-R, not E-R. Here.
2 R's?
2 R, no, 2 N's, E-O-R. There it is. Not E-R. Did I say 2 R's? Oh, that's bad job by me. That's wild if you just you just go heavy on the final consonant. Like that's...
Oh, yeah, no, it's an elongated.
You're just like, yeah, it's Connor. It's like, I guess that works, Welcome, guys.
It'd be wild if he went 1 N, 2 R's, like, Connor.
Oh, I would be a world leader somewhere if I just spelled my name like that. That would demand so much respect.
You'd have to if you spell it with extra consonants. Extra vowels, no.
I'm looking to change my name anyway because I go by my middle name and that's stupid. So I'm getting rid of my first name. Might as well change the spelling.
Yeah, there you go. We got Jacky and Connor from the Vault podcast. That's their podcast that they are doing. We'll get into that a little bit. Welcome to the Dork Side of the Ring, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
It's a blast. Look, this is the Great British Bake Off crew, as I affectionately refer to ourselves. Minus a couple people. Susie was on. She was on the previous episode or the next episode. I don't know yet what order I'm going to do it in. Probably the previous episode. But the Susie was a part of the Great. Forgot to bring that up with her. But yeah, it's the old crew would sit in Tyler's Discord like this time last year and watch Great British Bake Off for 7 hours.
The two with whom it began. That's right. It was Whack, Susie, you. It was a good time.
Yeah, it was a good time. I was like, I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know who these people are, but they're making some bomb ass looking food. Like, this is great.
That's right. I miss going back and watching it. Like, now that I go back and watch it, I don't hear Wax snoring in the background. And so I feel like I'm missing something, but it's good nonetheless.
I'm sure if you ask Whack to record some snoring, that.
Give me a 10-hour snore sound. I'll go to sleep with that.
If it wasn't Great British Bake Off, it was cricket. And it's just some wild. We're just watching cricket. Why? I don't. It was sports. It was a weird time in the world. We were basketball had not yet started. Football was the only thing going really, and hockey wasn't even started yet either. Like.
I still watch cricket to this day. I just watched Australia beat New Zealand in the finals.
What did that take? 7 days? 17 days?
No, it didn't. It was T20. It wasn't test.
Okay, that's good. I don't know what that means. Listeners, don't worry. I'm not going to ask because it doesn't get complicated. But if you don't know what you have no idea. It sounds complicated.
3 different types of ticket. Yep. Yeah. It's not easy.
There's cricket long, cricket longer, and cricket marathon edition.
That's right. It's really great. Better than baseball, if you ask me. But
yeah, it's a take. That is a take. I will not disagree or agree. That is a take. So what we do here on the Dork Side of the Ring, I let you guys introduce yourself a little further. Tell the people what you do, where you can be found, stuff like that. Plug yourself. We do it alphabetically, so we're going to start with you, Connor. The floor is yours. Tell the listeners of the Dork Side of the Ring a little bit about yourself.
All right. Well, my name's Connor with 2 R's. And so...
Such a dick.
Yeah, that's a good description. Well, I've been on the accord with these two guys since the beginning. Sports writer by former trade, and now I just watch it and do nothing all day. It's really great. So I do a podcast with my good friend Jacky, who is also on here. It is The Vault, and we go over obscure sports stories and do a few deep dives into some stuff that maybe you guys haven't either read about or heard about very much. So have a lot of fun doing that as well.
Could one say it is the Dork Side of the Ring, but with sports? A little bit more serious, but as well. But.
It could be. It could be a lot less serious, maybe equal seriousness.
I was gonna say it's definitely like we're just goofy here, but we do get serious sometimes. But
yeah, it's definitely I wouldn't call it a serious show. We talked about the what was it, 2008 Detroit Lions last time, and just laughed about people maybe betting on preseason or betting on the Detroit Lions that season. So, we're gonna have a good time.
That was that the year Joel Zumaya tore his rotator cuff playing fucking Guitar Hero?
Oh, maybe. I didn't read that when I was doing my research. Maybe we need to go back and do a.
I'm trying to remember.
Episode 2. What the hell?
We're in one episode.
You, Connor.
Yeah.
Let's see. I want to see what it knows because it absolutely was. It was 2006. Yeah. So. He remained in the bullpen for the 2006 playoffs. He was sidelined in the ALCS by a sore wrist, which Dave Dombrowski disclosed that it was playing Guitar Hero.
Oh, okay.
This was acknowledged by the game developers with a message on the credits in Xbox 360 version of Guitar Hero 2. No pitchers were harmed in the making of this game, except for one, Joel Zumaya. He had it coming.
Do y'all remember when Guitar Hero?
Oh, you know what? That's why we missed. Connor, that's why we missed it. That was a Detroit Tigers pitcher We did the 2008 0-16 Lions.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's where the
Like,
disconnect is.
I was
I
like,
feel like
yeah.
it would have come up.
Well, he said 2008 Detroit Tigers, and I'm like, yeah, they went to the World Series, I think, that year. Like they were, or maybe a year before or something like that. They were or at some point.
Oh no, we were doing the Sad Sack Lions, man.
Yeah, that makes more sense. Okay. Jack, your fantastic co-host, as you said, Jacky Van, user Jacky Van, first name user, last name Jacky Van. The floor is yours to introduce yourself to the people.
Yes.
Go ahead.
Appreciate you giving me the floor. So my background is primarily, as of recent, sports betting. I'm your legal bookie. I work for a legal sports book. I host a great podcast with Connor where little backstory on ours is we're called The Vault for the reason that, as Connor mentioned, we tell lesser known stories or stories you think you know, but we want to do more of a deep dive on. And the interesting part is that depending on the week, it's either my week or Connor's week, and the other doesn't know what the story is going to be that week. So the other one gets to learn along with the audience about the deep dive that week. So my week, I did the Wayne Gretzky story about how absurd he is. In Connor's week, as we mentioned, he did the 2008 Detroit Lions. And we're also looking to bring on some guests. So we'll probably bring you on at some point, Grumm, to give us some probably wrestling stories or anything
buddy,
of that nature that.
Yeah.
I know we're going to have our good friend Pudge on at some point. He's probably going to talk about some OU football or something. We're not totally sure. We gave him kind of the same stipulation. We'll coordinate a time. You come with the story, and we come with the ears and the instant reaction commentary. So that's kind of how we do it. We're starting up a Discord to get our listeners interacting with each other. And right now, social-wise, you can just either follow Connor or myself. I'm JJ Van Erm 9, 2 nines.
Two nines.
That's 2 nines. I forget. Sometimes I'm 19, sometimes I'm 99. I kind of forget sometimes. So my personal Instagram, I usually promote our show when we launch, and then I think Connor does the same. I don't know. Connor does whatever the hell he wants most of the time. So you can follow us there until we get our social media up and going.
All right, cool. So yeah, the Vault. I've listened to the Wayne Gretzky one, and I'm just again, like I knew that how good he was compared to his contemporaries. Some of this stuff, man, is like, yeah, no, if like he didn't score any goals, he'd still be the all-time points leader. It is wild, you know. It's like, oh, this guy just had so many assists that he's so far ahead of everybody. Wild. Just the levels to which he was just greater than everybody, like not just in the pros. Like this is a guy who basically out the womb was miles ahead of everybody. He was comparable. Like, you know, I could see like a 5-year-old Wayne Gretzky skating in the NHL. He
was dominating Adams. He was dominating mites, peewees, squirts.
Yeah.
Anim, midgets, all the different levels. He dominated. I think, I remember correctly. Don't quote me on this because I don't honestly remember. He might have been the first one to ever get exceptional status in the Canadian Junior Hockey League.
Wow.
So basically what that means is like you normally have to be 16 to get drafted into the league, and he got exceptional status, so he joined the league at 15.
Wild. Like,
yeah.
Just... He's like a thing with like him and like Simone Biles is also like this, where the people who are so far ahead of their contemporaries that they're basically the exception, that you're like, we're not comparing you to Simone Biles, we're not comparing you to Wayne Gretzky. Who's the second person? Because we'll compare you to Mario Lemieux. That's who we'll compare you to. We'll compare you to Gabby. We'll compare to Gabby Douglas or Michaela Maroney or any of the other U.S. Olympic gymnast. Like, we're not doing this because those, we're to the point where, like, Simone Biles is getting scored less because they don't want people, trying her stuff because they're so dangerous and only she can do it. Which is just,
exactly.
It's wild. So that's good. That I look forward to more episodes of The Vault and look forward to, getting potentially being on. Now I'm going to think of topics to bring. But before all of that, we've got the dork side of the ring. And on the dork side of the ring, we talk wrestling. And I got to ask you guys before we go too far, I need to know your experiences with pro wrestling. So inverse of the alphabetical order, Jacky, let me hear that sweet experience with the grapples.
I have a very interesting background in wrestling. For one, I haven't always understood the appeal. I'm not gonna lie, just because I was like, people want me to think it's a sport, but it's more like a telenovela, like a drama, like a TV series, where like I don't always understand the sports appeal to it, just because I feel like it's so much more than that. And so when I watched it in college, one of my roommates and another buddy were big wrestling guys, and so we would watch Raw and SmackDown and WrestleMania. And I would sit there and I would be very, very confused as to what the hell was going on. Mostly because I didn't know all the storylines, but also because I was like, these guys already know what's going to happen. How do they get themselves to, go in there knowing that they might be, scheduled to like lose that day, or like, where it's like, I like the going in with nobody knowing what's supposed to happen. Now, I come from a sports betting background where more and more people are trying to tell me that every sport is fixed, and I'm starting to hear it out. So that's where it gets like, now it's like, well, maybe we're all just in like a simulation and somebody just already knows and they just want to mess with me because I don't know, and if somebody else knows. So I've found it interesting, but sometimes I just don't necessarily wrap my head around the difference of why people view it as a sport. If you pitched it to me more of as a television show, I feel like I'd get more into it, but because it's so much pitched as a sport, I always like scratch my head.
I think it's often pitched as a sport by people who have been longtime fans, and really the majority of time is pro wrestling. Maybe the last 15 years is when it's become more of a TV show than a sport. I mean, it's always been more of a TV show. I mean, look, at its fucking peak, it is a show filled of over-the-top characters, a guy who's basically a porn star, you have a pimp, you have a guy who's satanic-esque, you have a guy who can control fire, you have a guy who like drives in a different like vehicle every week to fuck with his boss and doesn't get fired. And then you do have your realistic characters of, like your Triple H's and the Rocks, who are just these, very egotistical characters. But like, it's a television show. It's always been entertainment. And like, you can say like, oh no, it's not always entertainment because, and it's like, well, sure, in the 80s when everybody was dumb and all you could get away with basically going like, hey, I'm just a tough guy and I'm going to do tough guy things. Sure. That's the same thing with action movies, right? Like, Rambo, is First Blood is a very realistic show, movie that really isn't realistic when you really think about it because of how, especially now what we know. But like Rambo later becomes this larger than life action movie because I saw him do that. I want to see something better. I need more. So I think I always pitch wrestling as
definitely
as a scripted. It is a action movie, like sketch comedy show almost. Like it is the amalgamation of SNL, Marvel, and with some semblance of like competitive athletics, but it's definitely more of action movie fight scene. But no, I can understand where you're like.
If you took that combo you just said, it's where it's Marvel, it's SNL, and you throw it in with like American Gladiator. That's like the three combo that I feel like it fits perfectly.
Yeah, and I mean, like nowadays AEW tries to do more. We're more of a sport. We take more of a sports background, and we're bringing it back to being realistic. And it's like, well, the cat's out of the bag. right? So there's no reason to pretend that it's a competitive thing. Like they have ranking system, but it doesn't make sense. You have people who have wrestled 40 times this year, not on their national television show, and they're ranked number 3, but they're nobodies. It's like, who are these people? Where do they come from? And then they're like, oh, hey, they're challenging for the title. It's like, why? What? Why isn't the number 1 contender challenging for the fight? What's going on here? None of this makes sense. Other than that, they tell good stories, which is the important part.
I take the UFC model too much.
Yeah. Connor, what about you? I know we talked a little bit about it. What is your experience with the professional wrestling?
Okay, so my experience with professional wrestling is almost entirely you. So I had an aversion to it growing up, and I've seen you talk about this on Twitter and in the chat quite a bit. But my aversion to it was the fans. It just always turned me off. Smelly people with big shirts.
Yeah.
And so, and that's not to slight anyone who's a fan. It's just that was my experience growing up. I'm sure they're just like football fans are very similar, but I just was more exposed to football growing up. My parents didn't want me to watch it. They said it was stupid. I never watched to check myself. I didn't really make my own call on that. And so my experience with the good side of wrestling has been entirely through you and Jim Jam and really everyone that watches it in the chat, that I really like. So it's kind of like turned my idea of what wrestling and wrestling fans are on its head a little bit. Not to say I was wrong about big shirt, smelly people.
No.
But there was also other people as well.
I think it might be a t-shirt. Big shirt, smelly people might be a t-shirt as well. I'm trying to figure out merch. And I have Team Poopy Pants and Team Crybaby as an option.
There you go.
Big shirt, smelly people.
Big shirt, smelly people. Because you're absolutely right. Like it is the stereotypical pro wrestling fan there's like 3 versions of it. It is your old Southern person who is just they're still living in the 70s when it comes to pro wrestling. Like they're taking this shit fucking serious. Roby was talking about this in episode 9. Like his grandma was like yelling at the TV. Like that was how he was introduced, is his grandma yelling at the television because the bad guys are the bad guys.
That's crazy.
So it's like these older like especially older women taking this shit serious. It is big shirt, smelly people. Your fedora wearing neckbeards up in arms about things, and you see a lot of them in an AEW crowd. Or the other stereotypical one is, funnily enough, it is the begrudgingly there parent, right? There's a normal looking person, but they're there because their kid wants to be there. So they're just half-assing being a fan because their kid's into it.
And their kid is always, every single time, wearing jean shorts with the little hammer in.
Yeah. Yeah, their kid is actually 37, and they're actually all the third is a combo of the previous 2 of some kind.
Yeah, he just got off his day job of complaining about engineers and working on HVAC systems like PDF.
That was targeted. That was good. Damn, sir, that's a 15-yard penalty for targeting.
On the week of his birthday, no less. Wow.
Wow.
But no,
his Utes knocked off the Ducks last night, and you turn around and throw a target at him. Damn.
He's having a good week, and you decide months later for him. He's not going to hear this. Even if I tell him, like, hey, man, Connor took a shot on you on this week's Dork Side, you should listen. He's going to be like, I'll get around to it. Because by then, he's going to be, dealing with a newborn baby. So he's definitely not going to listen to it. You're safe.
I wanted to name his baby Connor with 2 R's.
No way. No. PDR is too sensible of a human to do that. The aversion to the fans is a big one. I think a lot of fans like to gatekeep pro wrestling. Surprise, surprise, the Venn diagram of video game fans and wrestling fans is almost a circle, and in that circle, they love to gatekeep. That's just like no, you can't be a fan of AEW because you like that WWE stuff, and it's like, well, that's not how you gain fans. Like, that's certainly not how you tell. Like, in my experience, I only associate with people who want to share hobbies with people. And that's all what this show is about. It's about sharing my hobby of professional wrestling and sports entertainment with my friends. Mostly very similar. You know, if they're closer to not knowing anything about pro wrestling, that's better because it's, hey, here's this thing I enjoy, and we're going to watch some goofy ass shit. And then you can understand why I enjoy this shit, because this is the ridiculous shit that happens that makes you go, all right, that's fucking dumb. That doesn't make any sense. But the way you talk about it and it relating it to this, I can tell that, you know, there's some parts of it that are good. We'll get to that later in this episode specifically. Couple questions before we get to the topic today. Speaking of wrestling or of video games, did either of you play any of like the wrestling video games growing up?
I did not.
I downloaded 2K12 or 2K14. The Xbox was a demo.
Okay.
And I remember distinctly playing as, correct me if I'm wrong, just like as bland as it sounds, the Warrior.
Oh, Ultimate Warrior.
Ultimate Warrior, yes.
Yeah.
Fighting as Ultimate Warrior against my brother and being mad that he was better than me, and then refusing to play the game again because I got so bad at it.
Oh boy, yeah. That damn, my brother beat me. I don't want to play this game. I don't want to do it.
See, that's the problem though. It's one thing if, you know, I was the younger brother and he always beat me, but I'm the older brother and I always beat him.
No,
and he found something he was better than me at.
Suddenly,
to the wayside it went.
Jacky, come on, let's play. No, I don't. Come on, is it because you always lose? Yes, I am man enough to. I'm absolutely man enough to admit that I do not want to lose to you, so I'm not playing it.
Let's play NHL where you blow a 5-0 lead and I get you 6-5 in overtime. We'll play that. WrestleMania? No, sir.
No. Yeah, no, there are a lot of so I'm glad you brought up NHL because I always feel like the NHL games are some of the most fun sports video games out there, because it is, you know, the same idea conceptually as basketball, get the thing into the goal, but it has the physicality of all the football games, right? So as a kid,
right,
you could just take out another player and switch to another one and you're fine. Where in like you're playing Madden, you can't just tackle a guy who doesn't have the ball. But
right.
You know, if you give a 7-year-old a controller and tell them go hit people, they're like, "Yep, I'm gonna go hit people."
Or hey, go double tap Y, go double tap triangle, and go fight that guy.
Yeah, right. But with like wrestling, it's very similar. It's that primal aggression of you have the objective, pin this guy, do everything in before that as you want to. You want to use chairs, you can use chairs. You want to put him through a table, you can put him through tables. You want to tell him to suck your dick, you can basically do that. Like they're the possibilities before pinning somebody are just, you know, endless. Many people have talked about on this podcast taking out their aggression as a child with wrestling games and it being a good thing, which is good. But yeah, you missed it.
A lot healthier than I did.
I did not play it because I never was really exposed to the video games. No one I knew played them. They look electric though.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always wanted this, and this may be a quick aside on the questions here, but I've always wondered, is the crossover for Buffalo Bills fans jumping through tables, is that like a wrestling thing?
So
or is it just Buffalo's a shithole kind of thing?
No. I love the people from Buffalo. I have at least 2 handfuls of friends from Buffalo.
I have some friends from Buffalo too.
I will not.
I
I have driven through Buffalo, and that's all I will say about it. I refuse. I've driven through Buffalo twice, and that's about it. That's all. I was raised. If you don't have anything nice to say, don't say anything. However, Buffalo Bills fans, they are hilarious to watch them put themselves through tables because it is definitely inspired by pro wrestling. Now, why they decide to put themselves through tables and not put others through tables I couldn't tell you that.
Okay.
However, uh, there's definitely a relation between putting people through tables and wrestling, and the Venn diagram is Buffalo Bills fans, wrestling fans, and putting each other in tables is dead center in there, in terms of the overlap.
Another crossover between the two. If I can make a quick callback,
Yeah.
you know the meme, the handshake, like two things, handshake, one thing kind of thing.
Yes. Yep.
So Buffalo Bills fans, wrestling fans, handshake, big shirts, smelly people. I think that's there's a many crossovers between
Again, no comment. I will not add a comment to it. I will let that comment lay. I'm not co-signing it, Buffalo. However, I'm also not disparaging it. It is there. Yeah. No. So, no. You didn't really. There's got to be there's definitely a crossover. I'm sure if I ask my friends, they'll tell me exactly where the origin of it came from. Because it definitely.
Let me know. I'm genuinely curious.
Yeah, I'll let you know. It's definitely something where it might have gotten bigger and bigger when people were like, we should put Jim Ross, by God, he went through the table, put some of that, because some of them earlier did have that. But I definitely, again, deciding to put themselves through tables before the games even started is chaos.
Oh, that's sicko shit, man.
Like, I guess it's like, if we do it after a loss, I might actually try to hurt myself. And after a win, it might just seem like I don't know how to win. But, there's different ways people can show that. So, video games. Speaking of video games, we'll just keep moving on. What are some of your favorite video games? Either the genre or specific examples. Connor, we can start with you. What about, what do you find yourself playing?
So, it used to be purely like first-person shooters. Like I played competitively in Call of Duty and a game no one's ever heard of called Homefront.
I've heard of Homefront.
I was number 4 in the world at Homefront for a really long time.
I'll tell my brother about that because he liked Homefront as well. So he'd be like, fuck.
I was sick, man. And then I really got sick of it. All the new Call of Duties are atrocious to me. Sort of like all the new Maddens are atrocious. It seems like everything's kind of getting worse. So I started pivoting and I moved into sports games, and then now I moved into pretty much like the action adventure. Like I think my favorite game ever is Horizon Zero Dawn.
Okay.
So I've always been a really big video game guy, but I've made a few pivots over the past few years. Especially over the pandemic, I was just playing nothing but something that took 45 hours to even like advance at all.
That's just a week, right? You're just like, all right, what am I playing this week? Oh, I'm playing Skyrim. All right,
Yeah, I've probably got 5,500 hours in Skyrim. It's tough.
Yeah, 55.
That's disgusting, man.
I could boot up my gaming computer and find out exactly how much I have I think I have like 70 in a specific save.
Okay,
and just like it's definitely one of those games where if you're just playing it like for the first time, you can easily sink 40 hours into it and not actually beat the main campaign.
100%. Yeah, I've got close to 2,500 hours on one save. It's like it's
wild. Jacky, what about you? What's your games of choice?
So it used to be a lot. Well, still is obviously. I'm the biggest sports head and the most basic white male there is when it comes to he does everything sports. Played every sports game there was. Mostly NHL because of my hockey background. A lot of Madden 07, a lot of MVP Baseball 05 were the classics. Some Kingdom Hearts, I won't lie. I did branch out a little bit. I played some first-person shooters, but I was awful at those. So, like WrestleMania 2K14 went to the wayside because I was bad, and I don't like doing things that I'm not good at. And lately it's been lots and lots of FIFA, lots and lots of Formula One, and lots of NHL. And lately I decided to download 2K22 because I started going to Rockets games and I wanted to rebuild the Rockets and make them better, which I know is a lost cause and a losing battle, but I thought it would be fun.
Yeah, no. So wait, all right. Like, I know you're a big hockey guy. That's your number one. We've talked about that outside of this. So, what is it? Like an hour and a half drive to Dallas, or two? Is it?
It's like 3.5 to
Is
Dallas.
it 3? Okay, all right. I was like wondering, like, how easy is it for you to go to a Stars game?
The chances of going to a Stars game are not high. I'm looking to go the week after my birthday in December.
There you go.
The Blackhawks are actually playing the Stars.
Hey, all right.
And then I'm
if there's any game to go to.
Right, any game to go to, gotta go see my Chicago boys. I did fly home for my sister to run the marathon back in October, and made it a point to go to the preseason game that was that weekend.
Okay.
So whenever I'm home, I try to catch a game, and then I'm actually going to see our good pal Pudge in January, and going to the Kraken Blackhawks game on MLK Day.
Oh, hell yeah!
So
nice.
Pudge and I are going to do a hockey. And it'll
Doing
be
a
very
hockey.
Fun.
No, that's a good. Plus with it being Seattle, that's a. I always feel like you got to go to the first season of expansion team just to get that energy of the excited teams.
Oh
yeah. You know.
Absolutely.
Okay, all right. So we got some gamers here, some trade gamers TM here. All right. Mortal Kombat. Anybody?
A little bit.
A little bit.
I played it on my phone.
Okay. Wow. All right. Yeah. Interesting. I'm expecting I played.
On the App Store.
I'm sitting here expecting both of you to go, yeah. Oh yeah, I played a bunch of that. No.
Actually, okay, so I have played it once. It's like one of the old systems it was on. I can't remember what it was. My fiance, I never played, like, the first game system I really ever owned was a GameCube, and then it was the Xbox 360. So my fiance challenged me to a game of Mortal Kombat on one of the old systems because I'd never played it. And she was like, I'm going to kick your ass. I used to play this all the time. And then I just smoked her, and we haven't played it again. We haven't played it since. It's like Jacky's younger brother.
Yeah, she's like, no, I don't want to play this. What about you, Jacky?
Yeah, she was so confident. It was
awesome. I feel like I've played it in arcades a couple of times.
Okay.
And then like Connor, I downloaded one of the versions for the phone. But kind of more of the older systems was like I go to my grandma's. My one grandma has an NES, my other has an N64. On N64 we were playing like GoldenEye, and on NES we were playing like Blades of Steel, this World Cup game, this Disneyland Adventure game. I don't know if you guys have ever seen that for the NES. It is wild. Like, that game is fun.
It's a Disney. Is it just going park to park? Is that what it is?
It's going ride to ride in the park, and you have to collect different things to like help Mickey and Goofy and Donald figure out who the bad guy is. You go to one of the rides. You actually have to like ride the ride, and it's like the mine shaft ride. So you have to like stay on the track and go back and forth. I feel like there's a bumper car game. There's like a train station game. Like, there's all these little mini games throughout the park. And this is like the NES. Like, this thing was so advanced for that system. It wasn't like
hold B to keep your arms and legs inside the ride at all times.
it was that, but it was like you'd have to like flip track to track because all of a sudden you'd be like going and it's like, oh yeah, this one's like all of a sudden it's got a giant hole in it, so you got to move from like the middle one to the next one. It was like Temple Run before Temple Run.
I was gonna say I'm hearing Temple Run. That's all.
It was like the original Temple Run, and it was only a mini game of the whole game, but it was like this Disneyland experience game. Some Super Mario Bros. 2, some Magic Quest, some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That game was insane. So yeah, that was more of my old school gaming. My Mortal Kombat is not where it should be, given my gaming background.
That is interesting. I always feel like it's funny though, right? Because you're like, like me. For me, I'm sitting here. I'm like, all right, like yeah, okay, they named the sports games and some of the other ones. All right, they've absolutely, in their time, have played like a Mortal Kombat. And then there's times where I'm like talking to people who like, I don't really play many video games. I played this game a little bit. I'm like, oh, you ever played Mortal Kombat? Oh, yeah, I played so much of it. I can tell you the fatalities. I can tell you, I still have the fatality codes written in a notebook somewhere. And it's like, but you don't play video games. I'm like, oh, you're that type of person where you played Mortal Kombat, got very deep into it, and got scared. Okay. That makes sense.
Got scared.
My mom walked in. Now I haven't played a video game since '75.
I got frightened by who I became. I only talked in fatality codes. I went back, forward, up, down, X. Next thing you know, that's all how I communicate with people. My room was covered in fatality codes written on the wall.
I used to have a little brother, but then I hit backwards X, and he's gone.
So, have you guys seen either of the Mortal Kombat movies? Like any of the three?
Jacky, you and I watched the most recent one together.
I was gonna say, I feel like I watched one of them.
Yeah,
I don't remember it.
That movie was the birth of the Steve Harvey mustache.
Was it?
Was it?
It was absolutely.
Oh,
Because we were in Discord talking about it, and I was talking.
Maybe that's why I don't remember the movie.
Michael B.
All you
Jordan
did.
and Lori Harvey's baby gonna look like.
Yeah, I don't remember the movie because all you did was shop the Steve Harvey mustache smile onto everything.
Everything.
I photoshopped it onto the guy with 4 arms.
On the Goro.
Yeah.
That's funny. That's fucking hilarious.
Oh my
god. All right, okay. So you guys are familiar with a little bit of Mortal Kombat, which is good.
Sure.
Because today, what we're watching here on the Dork Side of the Ring is almost... It is WCW copying the homework of Midway Games and saying it's something different. So 1996, so maybe a couple years into the whole Mortal Kombat freakout thing, they got the idea to make a character. And this character's name is Glacier. I can imagine those of you listening and the two of you can probably figure out who they copied. Yep. They started running vignettes or upcoming attraction videos for Glacier back in April of 1996. Now, 1996 is a very big year in professional wrestling, specifically for WCW. WCW in 1996 shattered everybody's expectations of pro wrestling when Hulk Hogan walked down at Bash at the Beach 1996 and turned his back not just on the fans, but also on WCW and joined Scott Hall, Kevin Nash to form the NWO. It presented a realistic product where it's, hey, we're not characters. I'm Scott Hall, that's Kevin Nash, and sure, Hulk Hogan kept calling himself Hulk Hogan because Hulk Hogan's a more marketable name than Terry Bollea. But he was Hollywood Hogan now. He is big timing. He's going to, he goes to Hollywood. He's a big Hollywood star playing into that. And so they decided, you know what? We're gonna push this back a little bit because he was supposed to debut in late June, early July, which happened to be around the same time the NWO storyline was happening. So what we're gonna watch today is the debut, the Nitro debut of Glacier. He debuted the Saturday before. However, this is his biggest debut in front of the largest audience he could get, millions of people watching at home. We're going to watch this. There is a promo kind of hyping him up a little bit, and we're going to watch his actual match, which was against Big Bubba. We'll be right back here on the Dork Side of the Ring podcast. Just to break in the action here, just to let you guys know that we are officially over on Patreon, support.grumm.tv. That's where you can get every episode of Dork Side of the Ring a week ahead of time, as is. So you can listen to this week's episode last week, or if you're listening to this Patreon, or on Patreon, I should say, you've been listening to these episodes a week beforehand and getting the scoop on all the fun that we're having here. Also, you can also watch some Dork Side of the Ring watch-alongs while, every other week I upload a watch-along from a previous episode, the most recent one from the Viagra on a pole match, myself, Johnner, and Dorky Al watching, Shane Douglas and Billy Kidman go at it for, I don't know, Viagra reasons. It was such a weird story, and also very 2000, I should say, very 20 years ago. Also on the Patreon, my streaming and other content is getting moved there officially this month of January. We have YouTube videos being uploaded early. We have stream access and Patreon benefits, such as speaking permissions during streams, special streams just for you, dictating what I am streaming, and producer credits for the YouTube videos as well. Head over there, give us a look. You don't have to, but it's a good way to support a creator like myself or any other creator that has one. So go do yourself a favor. Go to support.grumm.tv. Check it out. Also, if you want to continue to support us free of charge, you can absolutely do that. Add the podcast to your feed. Continue to listen. Share it with your friends. Let your people know. Tweet about us at DorksideRing and post about us on Instagram at DorksideRing. You can also go to the Apple Podcast app and leave a 5-star review. Write it on out. That'll help us grow. There's other Dork Side of the Ring podcasts coming out now, but they're not like me. They kind of suck. Like I listen to them. They're not good. They're just bitter people. But we're not bitter over here. Hey, Dork Side of the Ring podcast. Let's get back to it. Myself, Connor Lane, Jacky Van. We watched Glacier. Now, what are we gonna think? We're back here on the Dork Side of the Ring. First impressions, we'll go with you there, Jacky.
I thought it was
of Glacier.
I thought it was very interesting. We're still trying to figure out what was going on half the time because, as we've mentioned, the lighting was very poor. But I thought the moves were good. I thought he definitely showed his kung fu learning from his sensei. Don't believe that it was 20 to 30 degrees colder in the arena like the announcers decided to say it was.
Yeah.
But no, I definitely liked getting it to the point. Like, as I kind of was saying, I've watched some fights where they feel like they take 12, 20 minutes, and that one was very much to the point. He showed Bubba who was boss and got it done.
All right. What about you, Connor? First impressions of Glacier.
All right, I want to start by saying I really got into it. I really did a lot of leg work. I turned on my fan next to me to get a little colder. I had a little cotton ball action going around, make sure I had the snow going. So I really committed to the bit. And I think that really gave me a better perspective on the fight. When you're fighting in extreme conditions like that, what looked like the inside of a glacial cave, because the lighting was just so terrible. I'm surprised they were able to fight in conditions like that. Yeah, it was a straight rip from Mortal Kombat, just Sub-Zero. It was amazing. I don't know how they didn't get sued. Everything about that was fantastic. I loved every second. Bubba I've never rooted for anyone named Bubba before. I didn't this time either. So, I'm all in. I hope he's still at it. I doubt he is, but yeah. I'd love to see Glacier back in the ring.
So Glacier does occasionally do appearances. He's not, I wouldn't say retired, but he's definitely semi-retired. Like, he'll show up for like around WrestleMania weekend. A lot of times, people will bring out nostalgia acts. I'll call them, and he's one of them. He's shown up before at places. And everybody's be like, "Oh my God, it's Glacier! Oh, it's Glacier!" And and because he's a memorable part of a lot of people's youth and fandom. Where, like, yeah, it's corny as fuck, and it only gets cornier. Surprise, surprise. Because they had a lot of thought put into this, including having a storyline. But let me tell you something. They ripped Mortal Kombat more. So.
Oh, please tell me there was a tournament of champions.
No, but we'll get to it. I do want to provide the listener. So what we saw the promo from the earlier in the show, which is basically giving everybody one last rundown of who he is. He's an American guy from Georgia. He's got a southern drawl. He went to Japan to learn martial arts because he watched Bruce Lee and he was fascinated by it. He's got a sensei, which is Japanese for teacher. Had to tell us that. He sees himself as ice because it's such a solid and formidable element. Not cold, not the cold, ice. The ice is the element. And I think my favorite of the lines was when he was describing the symbols on his getup, and he's like, the symbol on the front represents the universe. Then that's it. Doesn't talk about anything else. He's like, the one above my eye is for ice, which I am, and then the one on the back is a Japanese evil, an evil monster to remind me that evil is always at my back. But nothing about the universe. There's no explanation of the universe at all in this in this video. And it's like, yeah,
saving the universe. What?
Yeah, he's like, I guess I don't need. Like, look, it represents the universe, but at the same time, it's your belt buckle, and I don't understand why. Can you please help me?
That's not for you and I to understand. We're not from Japan, you see.
I get, yes, but he taught me that sensei is teacher in Japanese. Why can't he explain why he's got the fucking universe symbol on his?
Because, Grumm, we can only handle so many lessons at once.
I guess.
I love that man with that accent, explaining Japanese to me. He's like, all right, now I had a sensei, and for those of you who don't know, that means teacher.
I feel like Connor, you're like, yeah, that was my next door neighbor explaining he just started watching Squid Games.
That is the man who taught me that is the man who taught me how to mow stripes into my lawn.
See, what you want to do is you want to go up one way and back the other way.
100%, and you want to hedge like you're fucking paid for it. Like, you're gonna want to hedge.
You're gonna be so happy. You're gonna look outside your window and you're gonna see a nice, well tended to cared, loving lawn, and you're gonna think so highly of yourself. Your lady's gonna be nice and happy, and you're gonna be the envy of all these schmucks about motherfuckers around here.
Yeah, when he's not wrestling or practicing karate, he's just talking shit about people who buy Ryobi power tools.
And piece of shit, Rio B. Get you
I'm a Milwaukee boy myself.
Yeah, get you a Makita.
I believe in plugging my tool set in. My shit's gas powered. I got a gas powered drill, gas powered screwdriver. Isn't that just a drill, sir?
No, electric, but I converted it.
I got one of them multi-tool screwdrivers. Threw it in the garbage. Yeah, I like having.
LS swapped it.
I like having 17 different things. Like, what the fuck? But yeah, so Glacier has a regular match against. Well, I wouldn't even say regular match. Like, he's kicking it. He's fighting Big Bubba. Big Bubba's selling his ass off of being afraid of this guy's kicks. But as Jacky Van said, incredible amount of just dark blue lights that made viewing it hard to see, which might have been the intention.
Yeah, I don't know how much y'all know about like colored lighting, but the color blue in the lighting spectrum travels the least far. So they picked the color that you are able to see with your eyes the least. It's pretty great.
Well, because blue is cold, Connor. Right, Jacky?
Blue's cold. Blue's very cold.
As a man who grew up that great blue snow.
As a man who grew up in the ice rink and played on the outdoor rinks. Well, first thing you think of when you cold is blue. Well, actually it's purple because your hands turn purple, and then it's blue because your face turns blue.
I see. They made the rink pitch black because of frostbite. I get it. That's what color your digits are gonna turn after you wrestle with the old Glacier man.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
Big Bubba wrestling in what was supposed to be a cold arena, sweating in a sleeveless T-shirt.
A whole lot of leather.
Whole lot of leather too. Yeah, you think he would be nice and I guess he was really warm. Just wild. Fucking. I'm just like I'm thinking. I can't get over the two things right now. The mental image of Glacier at home, shit talking like electric power tools, and then also Glacier the hockey coach. Like just yelling at a young Jacky van.
We don't need no goddamn Zamboni. I got it.
I can't do a southern accent well enough, but it's just the image of Glacier in his southern accent standing on the bench with the clipboard in between periods going, boys, we need to get pucks in deep, banging bodies, 4 lines rolling, pucks on net, pucks in the net, banging bodies, rolling 4 lines. The image of him saying that in a southern accent is just ripping through my head, and I cannot stop laughing.
Go ahead, give it a go.
You're in the penalty box. I don't want you thinking about what you did. I want you doing your goddamn kata.
You better get in your goddamn kata before you fight somebody, I swear to God.
You better get in your fucking stance if you're going to defend against these guys. These are big boys.
Gotta throw a roundhouse. Mr. Glacier, I have skates on my thing. That'll teach a motherfucker to try you. Slit his motherfucking throat. That's their fault for giving you a weapon.
His fault for not wearing no net guard. He should have filed USA hockey rule and wore a net guard. That's his fault.
Hey,
let him get his throat
seen that crane kicker coming, I'll tell you.
Who was the hockey player? Was it? No, it wasn't Marion Hossa, right? That basically stabbed somebody with his skate. Who am I thinking of?
No,
I don't know why Marion Hossa came up.
Happy Gilmore did it.
Happy good.
Yes. No, Clint Malarchuk is the goalie that got his throat cut by a guy falling in front of him. Jeff Carter is the guy, I think it was Jeff Carter when he was on the Kings, got his Achilles tendon cut by a skate. But Jesus. I don't remember a guy actually taking his skate and trying. I know a guy kicked somebody. I can't remember.
Todd Bertuzzi. I'm thinking of Todd Bertuzzi. It's got its own Wikipedia page. Todd Bertuzzi Steve Moore incident. Happened in a game in 2004 between the Canucks and Avalanche. In the first period, Moore fought Matt Cook of the Canucks and served a 5-minute major for fighting. Avalanche would go and build up a large lead in a fight-filled game. Late in the third, Bertuzzi was sent to the ice for Vancouver, and after failing to instigate to fight, he skated after Moore, grabbed his jersey, and punched him in the back of the head, knocking him unconscious. That's why. I just associated Todd Bertuzzi.
Oh, yeah.
I feel like Todd Bertuzzi also did something.
Punch game.
Yeah.
Yes, I do remember that. I think he did it more than once because I felt like he did it to Claude Lemieux.
He could have. If you go to his Wikipedia,
he was with Detroit. Or was it Vancouver?
Maybe.
It might be the same one that I'm thinking of. He comes up behind him, grabs him with one hand, and swings the other hand around and clocks him in the jaw.
Hold on.
And the guy just goes down limp on the ice.
So hold on. Here's his fucking personal life. Bertuzzi was born and raised in Sudbury, Ontario. His father, Albert Bertuzzi, is an Italian-Canadian who worked in the window washing business. When Bertuzzi was a teenager, Albert survived a near-fatal car accident, which was thrown from the vehicle through his windshield. His father has stated that he was proud of his own local reputation as a dirty player and referred to it as a Bertuzzi trait. He said that Bertuzzi takes after him in regards to his toughness and aggression. His great-uncle, Larry, is a Toronto-based lawyer who has done arbitration work in the NHL, including the Eric Lindros trade. So basically... Ooh. His dad was a scumbag too, and he's like, "Yeah, whatever."
So So is his nephew. His nephew is Tyler Bertuzzi, who plays for the Red Wings right now, and he's got like 3 teeth missing up front. He wears this raggedy, disgusting, unwashed hair, like shoulder length, and he does the like exact same thing, except he's a little bit. He's actually skilled because he scored like 4 goals the other night, like
Hold,
3 weeks ago.
It gets better. He also, oh no, sorry. He has a son, who was drafted to the OHL second. Tag Bertuzzi. Man, if you name your kid Tag, that kid is either that kid is getting in so many fights. That kid's getting in so many fights.
Oh, many fights. That's the Doug Glad of the OHL. His job is he can't skate, but his job is solely to fight people.
I mean, he escaped well enough to get drafted second in the OHL, so that's pretty good. I feel like it's
true. This
is
true.
But definitely,
he's
getting in fights in the locker room, like at the schoolyard. He's not getting like nobody's touching him on the ice rink. He's running away. He's so fast of a skater because he's like, I'm not getting hit. Fuck this. I get hit enough out to name your kid Tag.
Yeah, that kid has the same energy that my. It's true. He might. Tag has the same energy that my good buddy Pat has. Pat and I grew up together. I'm part of a friend group that knew each other since we were 5.
Mm-hmm.
Pat was playing a game for the public high school in our town. I went to the private high school, and Pat was playing varsity that year, but he got asked to play a JV game. He got mad at himself for not playing well enough. And in between periods, when they went to the locker room for an ice cut with the Zamboni, Pat decided to punch the door and break his hand. Because he was mad at himself for not playing well enough. Not like mad about somebody else, simply mad at himself for not playing well enough because he was a varsity player playing JV and decided to punch a locked door.
I know so many people like that. I feel like my brothers used to be like that, where if like he was just overcritical of himself, like, and then combined with being explosively angry, would be like throwing things or punching things. But never to the point where he was like he pulled his punches, like or he would just kick something. But then again, he was also very quick to throw a headbutt at somebody in a fight. So. I think he just saved it for when the time called. But yeah, I know so many people who are like, "Fuck, I should be doing better," and then they just break their ankle because they kick something so hard.
Yes, that's Tag Bertuzzi. He's too busy trying to fight everybody else off. He gets pissed off that he missed a wide open net, but he punched the wall.
But yeah, so Bertuzzis are just no. But see, that's the fun part about the Dork side. Was like I'm like fuck it, just go on a tangent about Todd fucking Bertuzzi and his family.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, so the Glacier. Let me explain where we go. What happens after? Okay, because normally I would have showed you what happened after, but for time's sake, there's a lot to show you. I'll just tell you. So a month or two after he debuts, another Mortal Kombat-esque character debuts by the name Mortis. He is dressed almost similarly to Reptile. He's wearing green. He's got a mask. He's got a skull mask. Performed by the wrestler Chris Kanyon, who is regarded as one of the most innovative maneuver-creating wrestlers, but just couldn't be charismatic at all. But that's also, there's other things behind him where like he was closeted the whole time he was wrestling and was always self-conscious about that. Here is the character Mortis for the two of you to see. And if you're somebody who is listening to this wondering, just MORTIS WCW, that's Mortis. As you can see, he's a skeleton Death Lord with a cane of some kind and a cape.
Looks like somebody made their own Halloween costume.
Right? He would wrestle with the manager, James, Father James, who was the sinister minister in some other places. He was basically just this demonic manager of unholy shit. there's a promotional pic of Glacier and Mortis. And as you can see, Mortis has his hands as if he doesn't know what the fuck he's doing.
That's ridiculous.
So and now there was a so in 2003, Chris Kanyon, when working for WWE, in an effort to get booked on television, returned back to Mortis, but he went with a purple variant. So that one's just
Okay, that's way better.
Way better, right? You know, it's
way better.
I mean, it helps that he had a little bit of money to his name, so he could do that, and he wasn't looking like the staff. It has like a Harley Quinn like jester hat, and it's just
there's no need for that.
It's just don't know why.
And it has the candy cane striping too. It just makes it look like a fucking clown show.
Yeah.
The bottom one, the ribs are a little bit more anatomically accurate, and I think that matters. I think it matters.
Yeah.
It looks like he didn't make it himself.
Yeah, it looks like he was able to pay somebody to make it. Now, this Mortis would lose a one-on-one battle fight match to Glacier. But that wouldn't be the end of it. No. For Father James Mitchell had another warrior by the name of Wrath.
Oh, God.
Oh, that was pretty cool.
Now, Wrath is the wrestler Brian Clark, who also was Adam Bomb. But he was a big dude, just very physically imposing, and he had like he was like 9/10 of the wrestler you would want to cheer for as a kid, right? He's big, he's jacked up, he's incredibly strong, and he just does some really cool shit. And he looks like a pro wrestler, and then he talks, and it just loses it. So the thing about Wrath is he did not wrestle wearing a mask. He refused to. So they're like, fine, because they wanted him to wrestle in that helmet, and he was like, no, I'm not doing that. So he was able to wrestle without it, and he was basically the other evil guy. So the whole thing is referred to as Blood Runs Cold. Because
he didn't want to wrestle in the helmet because his underbite was punching into it. I understand. I had to be rubbing his jaw raw.
So yeah, he's just a big he's a big dude who beat up on people, and now he's normally was wearing, you know, a black with a little purple accents to his gear. This culminates with Glacier consistently being ganged up on 2-on-1 until 3-time world champion Ernest Miller comes to rescue Glacier. Now, Ernest Miller has been talked about many times on this here podcast. The two of you, I don't know if you remember listening to the very first Dork Side of the Ring on Tyler's podcast. Mm-hmm. Ernest Miller is a very charismatic man who, not very good at wrestling, but he's charismatic as fuck. He comes in, but he's not exactly charismatic, but he's kind of filling that Johnny Cage role. And here's another picture that'll put it together. This is what he saves Glacier wearing, and it's almost verbatim what Johnny Cage wears: blue shirt, black pants, necklace. And that leads to a much talked up match going into it. Tag match: Glacier and Ernest Miller versus Wrath and Mortis. So that's where that goes, and it's almost ripped verbatim. If you know anything about Mortal Kombat, it is Earthrealm versus Outworld, and it's not good wrestling. But it is good. It is good entertainment, because if you just sit back and take it from what is being presented to you, while they are doing this very serious storyline where the NWO is slowly taking over WCW, people are coming in to join NWO. Around the same time, it is revealed that the president of WCW is actually a member of the NWO, and that's where You know, that's how NWO has been getting away with what they've been doing, is that he's been, you know, kind of setting it up. All these very realistic elements, stories, you know, guys being upset that their wife is hanging out with another man. You know, people just upset over general things like, hey, he's a crooked ref. I have a problem with that. Like, no, he's not a crooked ref. No, he's not. But he is. And then you have this over the top, cartoonish as fuck video game copying storyline that is affectionately called Blood Runs Cold. And that's basically 1996 for Glacier. Glacier shows up again throughout 97. They try him where he does this thing where he sells his gear to somebody who's trying to make it into the business, basically. He's like, here, you can have all my stuff, but your manager has to pay me. And he just kind of comes out as Glacier without all the extra shit. He just comes out wearing his gear, he loses matches to people, and then kind of disappears. Ernest the Cat. Go ahead.
I can see in the picture, the Johnny Cage picture you just sent, I can see Glacier just having a good old time in the background.
Yeah, he is unconscious.
He just missed his third straight "you up" text.
He got fucking like just bodied by these two guys. And it gets bad. Like, and the funny thing is, of the four guys involved in this story, Glacier, Ernest Miller, Mortis, and Wrath, all the other three are with WCW until it closes until it's bought out in 2001.
Okay.
Mortis becomes Canyon, becomes Chris Canyon, becomes Positively Canyon, back to Chris Canyon. He has a U.S. title run. He's a multiple-time tag champion. Ernest Miller becomes an over-the-top charismatic character. He becomes the King of Soul. He gets a dance battle with James Brown. He becomes the commissioner of WCW. And Wrath goes on an undefeated streak shortly after Goldberg starts his. He loses it around the same, slightly before. And then he becomes one half of the tag team known as Chronic, whose their whole thing is kind of like, you know, smoke weed. But they don't smoke weed. It's very weird. Like their finisher is time to burn, or burn time, you know, burning time. But they don't ever themselves make allusions to smoking weed or 420 or anything. Like the announcers will be like, well, it must be 420 somewhere, because then they come in and whoop at, and they're just two big dudes beating people up. None of it makes sense. It's
That's
just like
incredible. So they're just like encouraging people to smoke weed. They're like, what was that old show? Was it Captain Planet or whatever? But instead of actually doing anything, they're just like, yeah, man, you should smoke weed. We don't, but like I get why you would and you should.
Here, this is Chronic, okay? Now, does this picture, either one of you can tell me, does this picture scream anything about smoking weed?
Absolutely not. No, not really.
I was thinking maybe the barbed wire was a leaf. It's not.
It's barbed wire.
No, it's definitely definitely just barbed wire.
There is one their debut. The guy on the left, Brian Adams, says something about blazing one up, but they're making allusions like we're gonna set this tag division, we're gonna blaze up the tag division, you know.
Yeah.
And that's about it.
The guy on the right is upset with me for thinking he might smoke weed.
That's Wrath. That is the same guy.
He got his jaw fixed. Look at him. Hey.
Yeah, no, maybe got to shave down a little bit after he got some extra steroids. But yeah, this Glacier goes nowhere for anybody involved, really. Like, all the characters are dropped. The funniest thing about it is Ernest the Cat Miller goes on to basically be a very bad wrestler, but an incredible personality. He is constantly yelling at fat women. He is constantly yelling at fat guys. Connor, this is your guy, because he talks about how fat and smelly wrestling fans are.
Oh
Like
my God, that seems so mean.
he's presented as a heel, but he's getting this heat because he's like, look here, fat boy, I'll go in there, I'll whoop you 6 ways from Sunday, I'll come back here, beat this jabroni, and then I'll go back and do this and that. And like, he just would tell everybody, he would constantly
he's got a full schedule.
agitate the hell out of people. It's incredible stuff, and that goes back to your point, Jacky, which is like, if you tell me wrestling, so I tell people wrestling is entertainment. It's a lot of fun to watch. It's not to be taken seriously, because wrestling is at its best when it's not serious. What we watched was wrestling not being serious. Like, they were taking it seriously. We're not, though. We're getting to laugh at this fucking Mortal Kombat character come to life.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And like the other experience I've had with wrestling is you sending me the Steiner math video. I go back and watch that every now and then, and it makes me laugh every time.
It's always good. Scott Steiner, I want to do is I want to get, when I have the time, basically go through some of his greatest promos, record them, and that's an episode of Dorkside. Because like, the Steiner math is the tippy top, but there's been ones where he basically shits on WCW, where he works, live on television, and shits on Ric Flair, says his dick hasn't worked in fucking 10 years, that he's the real spaceman. And it's just like, incredible stuff. Because he's a big, muscled up guy that like is just yelling, and it's like, I'm scared. Because he seems like he's about to become unhinged, and he ends up becoming unhinged in the sense of the stories, but also just like a legitimately tough guy.
I've got an idea of a promo when you do get that episode together.
Huh?
You've got to get some chainmail and redo the Steiner math.
See, other podcasts,
that would be beautiful.
If they were to go one-on-one with the Dork side of the ring, would have a 50% chance. But I'm not. They're regular podcasts, and I'm not normal. See, at best, you have a 25% chance at best, and that's like literally it, where he's just stammering through some of it. The best thing
he's
is
doing math in his head and then just saying the worst math you've ever heard.
But it's right. It's absolutely. It's so right. Where he's like, if you take your 25% chance if we were to go 1-on-1 and add it to your 13 your 33 and a third percent and minus your 33 and a third percent chance, you got 80% chance to beat me. But I got a 66 and 2/3% chance because Kurt Angle knows he can't beat me if we were to go 1-on-1 in a wrestling match. So you take my 66 and 2/3, add it to my 75. I got 137% 2/3 chance at winning the title as sacrifice. You see, Senor Joe, the numbers don't lie, and they spell disaster for you at sacrifice.
There you go. Just get some chainmail, man. Like,
but the best part about it, the best part about it is so he's got like a tag team. So with Little Petey Pump, who they used to call the Maple Leaf, he was Petey Williams, just really in shape, and they started calling him Little Petey Pump, the Canadian Maple Leaf Muscle. And he joins up with Steiner. He becomes like the tag. They basically do this thing because there's a match concept in TNA called Feast or Fired. There's 4 briefcases hanging on each corner, or hanging in a corner. And one is a title shot for the world title. One is for the X Division title, which is like their secondary title. One for a tag team title. And then there's one where you get fired. And it's... The very first one is infamous because they actually fired that's how the one person found out that they were going to lose. They got fired. They ended up rehiring them like a couple of months later because it was kind of like very bad. Like, yeah, that's how you got fired live on national television in pay-per-view. Good job.
Wait, is that the actual real life person figured out they were fired?
Yes. Like, they were legitimately fired. They were told what briefcase to get. Like, hey, these are the 4 people. You're going to grab this one, you're going to grab this one, you're going to grab this one. And then they opened it. It was basically, hey, congrats, you got a world title shot. Hey, congrats, you got a tag title shot. Hey, congrats, you got this. Hey, you got fired. Congrats.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Wrestling is still very much a carnival business. But in the story, so Scott Steiner won one and Petey Williams won one. Petey Williams got the world title shot, and Scott Steiner got the X Division title shot. So he basically, slowly convinces Petey Williams to take the X Division, and then for them to trade the title shots on the deal that he would mentor him. So at the end of this all, right, Petey's trying to keep track of it. Says, "Fuck it, I'm not keeping track with this math." And then as Scott's like, "That's it, promo done, home run, let's go." And then Petey's like, "Hey, Scott, you know how you say that, Scott Steiner's got your hookup? Well, little Petey Pump is the one, or Maple Leaf Muscle is the one you should look up." And then kills the entire promo. Like, if it would have just ended with Steiner's math, incredible promo. Petey just goes, "I gotta get this line in, though." And I'm like, ugh. And it's like one of those things of like, sometimes it's better just to get your shit later.
Yeah.
But yeah, that hilarious, just absolutely unhinged, deranged. And he's actually went to school at Michigan, got a degree from Michigan, so like a decent school has got a degree in. If you're an Ohio State fan, you're going to disagree. I understand.
Hey.
What?
We are a pro-Michigan podcast here.
I didn't...
State Ohio. State Ohio is the one giving out fake degrees here.
Hey, I'm not... Again, I'm going to leave those comments lie. I'm just acknowledging that some people from Ohio State may disagree with Michigan being a credible university.
Listen. We're not the one who let Urban Meyer teach a character class. I'll leave it at that.
Again, we're going to leave those comments late. Neither confirm nor deny that I support that. In that form of slander. Absolutely. Actually, fuck it. I still can't believe they did that. Urban Meyer, you're a high character human being. Yes, I am. I've only faked 2 different heart diseases at this point. I guess I shouldn't say faking it. He probably does. It's just, it's conveniently in need of taken care of when he has to leave.
Right.
The high altitude in Utah is bad for my heart condition. I'm going to take this job in Florida. Oh, hey, I'm about 2 years from finding out that my star tight end, one of my star tight ends is an actual gang member, and one of our receivers has no problem shouting the N-word out in public. My heart, my ticker, I got a bad ticker. Oh, at the same time, Jim Tressel's getting fired because somebody went and got free tattoos?
Okay, so Utah to Florida, like, that's crazy. The altitude's hurting my heart. How's crystal meth? Nuts.
Back to Florida. He's in Florida again.
Yeah, he's back. Hey, now he's
back on the shit.
He couldn't kick the habit. He went to Ohio State where their meth just isn't the same.
No, it's
not. Are you kidding me?
It's about heritage down in Florida, and there is a heritage of crystal meth cocaine down there.
I will say though,
it's on the state flag. Look it up.
I don't know why this just repopulated in my head, but there is a segment on Chicago Sports Radio where they read a news headline and decide whether it's Ohio or Florida.
Oh wow! Okay, okay.
Yeah, it's like monkey escapes like someone's house and robs a convenience store. Did it happen in Ohio or did it happen in Florida? And more times than not, you think it's one and it's the other one. I don't know why they're talking about on ESPN radio in Chicago, but I want to say it was the Waddle and Sylvie show, and they would do that where they would read out a headline and the rest of the crew had to decide whether it was an Ohio or a Florida story.
I know the Corolla show used to do something like that, but it was Florida or Europe. Like that's how big the other side of it was how like where did this happen? Either the state of Florida or the entire continent of Europe.
Yeah.
It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. But we're running out of time here. So before we do the final farewells and such, final thoughts on the Glacier character, the Glacier story that I told, anything we discussed today.
I'm just over here thinking about Ryobi tools, man. Like, yeah, no, it was great. I would say electric, but it was very icy. It was great. I'm cold. I'm probably gonna grab a blanket after this, but I might go watch that entire. I might watch everything he's ever done. I might watch the tag team where he just gets his ass kicked for the whole year.
There's a YouTube account that goes over the Monday Night Wars, but they have an actual, because I wanted to see if there was a compilation of the promos, and they actually go over all of his run. So that might be worth checking out. If I find it again, I can send you a link there, Connor.
Definitely send me a link. I'm so curious.
I will. Jacky, what about yourself? Final thoughts about Glacier and everything we discussed on the episode today.
After going over the Mortis and Wrath, and I'm apologizing because I'm terrible with names. The other guy who's the ripoff of Johnny Cage.
Ernest Miller.
Oh, yes, Ernest Miller. Yes. The fact that those three managed to have longer careers than our dear friend Glacier has me both shocked and also makes sense all at the same time. And I can't wrap my head around why his character was the first introduced and it flopped so hard. But it also makes sense because his belt buckle is the universe.
Imagine having the universe at your belt buckle and you couldn't stay in a company for more than 2 years.
His evil was at his back, man. He wasn't keeping an eye on it. It was at his back and it came up to get him.
If he were to do it all again, he puts that evil face on his front so he can keep a good guy.
Keep the evil in front. Yeah, really dropped the ball on his part.
Yeah, great costume design. Really piss poor planning.
Yeah, have the universe at your, let the universe have your back. Keep evil in front of you. I think that's the biggest takeaway that we can have here is always
making a shirt.
Evil. I'm just gonna have evil in the front and then universe on the back.
Just like a little. No, it doesn't say anything. It's just the evil face as a little logo, like where the belt buckle should be, and then a giant universe logo on the back of the shirt. It says nothing else. That's all it is.
That's all it is. That'd be good. With like snow on the front, maybe. This way.
But like not like snow, but like the most cartoon, basic ass, cut it out of a piece of paper snowflake that you can think of.
Oh yes, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Tie-dye it with the darkest blue you can find and black.
It's a black shirt only that has blue font. Dark blue font.
Dark blue font.
It's gonna be the worst selling shirt of all time. I'll buy one.
I'm gonna buy 4.
You can only tell that this is blue letters, fluorescent light. That's the way I've done nothing.
Every so often it lights up. Like, wow, didn't know that was possible.
It doesn't say anything, and then you go to play laser tag in it, and then you can read everything.
That's good. Boy. All right. Well, thank you for the T-shirt idea there, Jacky. I appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely.
That is good. So let's get out of here. But before we do that, once more time, let the people know where they can find you, what you guys got working on. You can talk a little bit more about the vault. And anything else you guys are working on? I know, Jacky, you get the Power Play Quarterback podcast. I don't know if that's I don't know if that's on hiatus with the vault, or I don't know. You can go into that more. But Jacky, floor is yours. First, go ahead.
Yep. So you can find us The Vault with Connor and Jacky currently on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and Google Podcasts. We do use Anchor to distribute. So if there is something that you would like us to put it on to listen to, we are more than happy to do that. But those are the big three that we're on right now. We have a Discord coming soon. Just doing the little final preparations on that so that we can get our listeners integrated in a similar model that Tyler has. And for show promos and just following the live of your great co-host of the podcast, my Instagram is JJVANERM and the number 99 on Instagram. I usually try to post my story, occasionally do a little preview of when we do get a podcast episode up. But other than that, looking forward to more stories. Looking forward to having you on, Grumm. And yeah, kick it over to Connor.
All right. Well, I rarely use Instagram. It's mostly just a flex posting kind of thing. But you can find me on Instagram at Connor Lane. 2 N's, 1 R, and an O. Like CONNOR. You got it.
If you use
And
2
then-
R's, you will find his fascist communist regime that he posts under fakely.
Fascist and communist. That's a tough get.
Yes,
You know what?
it
That
is.
might be a new bit. Cut this out, Grumm. I want to get. Let's get this bit ready.
Look,
You
by
can
the
find me
time
on Twitter.
by the time this comes out, your bit will be fully planted.
Oh, good. You can find me on Twitter, which I use pretty regularly at S Connor Lane, the aforementioned first name that I'm wanting to get rid of. Yeah, just find me on there. Find me on a Vault podcast. I'll probably be on a Power Play Quarterback if it comes whenever it comes out at some point again. And yeah, I look forward to having you on there, Grumm. We're gonna have Whack Human Being come on as well. We got him slated up. And we'll have Pudge. We're working in a few guests. We're gonna have a mostly solo, but we're definitely gonna have some options there. So
Hell yeah.
look forward to talking to you guys further. Looking forward to getting this ball rolling even further. So appreciate you, Grumm.
Hey,
Yes,
no problem.
and the power play quarterback is in a holding pattern. Just trying to figure out what I want to do with that. So when
Gotcha.
that has more details, I will get back to y'all on that.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you guys. I'm glad. I'm glad Connor decided to plug the podcast for sure. I know that's why he thought I was bringing you guys on, and not to have a good conversation. Yeah, Connor, you got ratted the fuck out. Jacky's like, yeah, he called me and said Grumm wants us on the podcast to plug our podcast, and I'm like, no, yes, but no.
That's not what I said. First of all,
the old-
I read it out.
That was verbatim what you said.
Oh boy.
No,
Nice.
you know,
Man, you have
Grumm reached
terrible
out.
memory.
I read the text to Grumm and I said, he said that you were invited on to Grumm's podcast to promo our podcast. And I said, that's funny because Grumm reached out to me as well.
Huh? That's not how I remember it.
You want me to pull up the text right now. I got receipts.
And you can't blame it on being under the influence of some medication at all, because this is 2 weeks before your surgery. Which the fact you're here, it sounds like you're doing all right, and that is good to hear. And glad you were able to do it. Hopefully you're not in pain doing this.
Oh no, not at all. I just can't eat anything. Other than that, we're good.
That's not fun. Are you doing smoothies? Is that how you get your nutrients?
Bro, I'm just rocking Ensure every day.
Oh boy, man, your bowels are in a fucking fight for their lives.
No, dude, just we're fucking shit up over here. It's fine.
Oh yeah, you're fucking shit up, all right. But thank you guys, users Jacky Van and Connor Lane, CPF's close personal friends, pals of the Vault with Connor and Jacky, with Jacky and Connor, the Vault, the Connor with the Jacky. I'm just gonna keep it thrown out there, but the Vault with Connor and Jacky. Appreciate you guys being here on the Dork Side of the Ring. I can't wait to get you guys on again in the future.
Absolutely. Happy to come back.
I look forward to it.
Love you guys. Thanks for coming on.
All right. Thanks, man.
Rest in peace to Connor's plumbing and his bowels. Drinking nothing but Ensure. Couldn't imagine it. Don't want to imagine it. Thank you guys for coming on. Please go check out their podcast, The Vault, with Connor and Jacky, doing deep dives on single topics, similar to what we do here, but much more involved and informative. Whereas, like, we just fucked around talking about mowing lessons, like getting taught how to tend to your lawn by fucking Glacier. You can check out Jacky's social media at JackyVan99 on Twitter, and Connor's at Connor Lane on Twitter as well. Thank you guys for coming on. Appreciate it. Link in the description of this episode for their podcast. We'll take you straight to it on their Apple Store. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate it for coming on. And next week, we will be joined by two more fantastic CPFs, close personal friends, users Susie and user Evil ESPN, hanging out, talking about the trial of Eric Bischoff. That was a fun one to do. Mainly because Susie's an actual lawyer. So a wrestling trial, or wrestling doing a trial in a courtroom, and it being everything that wrestling and trying to do law would be. It's a wild watch. I forgot how just like ridiculous it got. I just remembered from that was Mick Foley, when they got recess, being excited to eat his lunch, in which his mother packed moon pies. And we talk a little bit about moon pies and how disgusting they are, as well as some other, childhood baked goods, like Little Debbie's and the such. But that's next week. This week, we're done here. Thank you guys for hanging out. Thank you once again for visiting me on the Dork Side of the Ring. Go check out Jacky Van and Connor Lane's podcast, The Vault with Connor and Jacky. I appreciate it if you guys do that. I appreciate them being here. Can't wait. That I'm sure I can bring them countless hours of content as well for their podcast in the future, but we'll worry about that in the future. Thank you for checking us out this week once again here on the Dork Side of the Ring. Go check out the Patreon if you have not yet already. Support.grumm.tv. That'll take you straight to the Patreon so that you can see exactly what you're getting there. You get these episodes a week early. You get new content that's exclusive to the Patreon, such as the watch-alongs and whatnot. You also get the gloriousness that is live streams in my Discord of my content, my other content and whatnot. You also can go and continue to support us for free by telling people, sharing it word of mouth, telling your friend. You tell one person you know, hey, remember Mortal Kombat? Yeah, wrestling, they tried to do that in wrestling one time. I listened to this podcast. It's actually a very fun podcast. For some reason, we're talking about mowing lessons with the guy who tried to do a Mortal Kombat character. And they'll be like, no way, what's it called? And you tell them the Dork Side of the Ring podcast, the one with the cartoon faces. That's the one. You can also just find us on Twitter, find us on Instagram at DorksideRing. Tweet us there. Share, comment on stuff. I actually have to do better with that. That's my 2022 resolution, is to be better, active with Dorkside on Twitter and on Instagram. You can also go to the Apple podcast page, leave a 5-star review. That'll help us grow, help us climb the charts of this here wrestling category, and also leave the review too. Not just the 5 stars, but you leave that review, write a review. I'm gonna read it here. I read them here. We do that every first of the month. When they're here, or the first podcast of the month, I should say, the first of the month, or the first podcast of the month. But I appreciate it. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next week for the trial of Eric Bischoff with Susie and Evil ESPN. Thank you guys so much. I will see you guys next week. Thank you for joining me here on the Dork Side of the Ring podcast. And remember, wrestling is a lot more fun when no one's taking it seriously. I am Grumm. I'm your purveyor of all things dorky within the scope of professional wrestling and sports entertainment. And this has been Dork Side of the Ring podcast.